I don't know why it sticks up so much. I'm just having a bad hair day today. It's a bad hair day. Hi there, Coach Tate here with a non-related running talk. This is going to be on traveling the world, my perspective on that. Fairly limited perspective, I will say. I know a lot of you are probably real business savvy travelers. You've done a lot more than me, so you could chime in with comments, anything you think I say that's not correct, or advice you may have, and things like that. But let's get started. So it's no secret, I'm going to Copenhagen for the marathon next weekend, and I think some people were like, why are you traveling halfway around the world? Why do you do all these international races? It's horrible for the environment. I feel guilty about that. I don't call myself an environmentalist because flying on airplanes, international flights, pretty bad for the environment. I'm not gonna lie. There are great opportunities though, I think, with travel, whether it's opening up your perspective to different cultures, literally being on the other side of the world and seeing how other people live, and especially in my realm, traveling, using my legs to travel around the world and do different events and races, whether they're trail races, usually trail races. This is actually my first international marathon that I've done outside of the US. But seeing it through the lens of a sport like running and seeing it through different cultures, I think is really cool. And you could always learn a lot, especially if you go to countries that have cultures that are way different than where you grew up. And it depends on where you're from and what your worldview is, I guess. But I think that broadening of perspective is a real privilege to be able to travel. And there's a financial barrier to entry, which really bothers me with a lot of things. And there's financial barriers to entry for training or education or time and freedom to use your time the way you want to use it to open up your horizons and learn. So it's a real privilege. Traveling is a real privilege. I do not take it for granted. It's a real special thing, and that's why I wanted to kind of do this talk to introduce you on how kind of I've gotten to be able to go on some of these trips and be very fortunate. But it was always something that was really important to my family. I grew up very middle class in the US, just very average income for my parents, but they were very generous with spending time with us as children, taking road trips, but also being able to value travel above a lot of things as an educational experience. So I lived in Japan for a year. My whole third grade experience was overseas in Japan, and I had the opportunity to travel quite a bit during like spring break and stuff. But it's a real privilege, and I don't take that for granted. And now I do use my legs a lot to travel on these international trips. I do get support from races. It's no secret I'm a professional mountain ultra trail runner. I get support from sponsors as well, and I've also kind of leveraged some of my own money. I also, through the business, we have business expenses in travel and things like that. But I'm mainly going to talk about credit card points and credit cards and kind of what I've learned in the last couple years of trying to capitalize on that. So it came from looking at my last minute ticket to try to get to an international marathon, narrowing it down. I decided Copenhagen's my best bet. It's an expensive plane ticket though to get there from Denver, Colorado. And so I also have points with certain airlines and United, and it was last minute ticket. It was going to be really expensive, but I was able to leverage some of my old points in an old Sky Miles account, as well as looking at prices of tickets from different destinations and hubs in the US to actually cut that original price down that I saw by half, and I actually got a really good deal on a ticket. It does involve flying on 4 different airplanes within about 24 hours. It's a long trip before a race, but I'm going to do that because it cut the cost in half. And the loyalty points that I'm going to talk about, and again, there's great resources, inspiration. There's a website, thepointsguy.com. I think a lot of what I'm going to say is probably only applies to credit card offers and deals probably within the US. And so if you're in a different country, there's probably all sorts of different things. But basically, what I've learned is I take advantage of some credit card point offerings, and you have to be careful with that because you take out more credit cards, it could wreck your credit score. It's very important. You don't want to wreck your credit score before taking out a home loan, mortgage, or anything like that. You don't want to go into big credit card debt. That's kind of reckless, I think, in my opinion, financially. So you take out a lot of credit cards, that's a risk. But I see these offers. I think in the US here we had this American Express Delta offer with Delta Airlines, and so initially I had signed up for that. Delta had a pretty good hub out of Denver where I'm living from, and we were able to get status on Delta, but also usually just fly Delta to get points on these American Express credit cards, which I will not show you because I think the card has the number on the front. I don't want you guys to see that, but I used to do that. I switched now my loyalties to United Airlines, and it's better to focus maybe on one airline that's around a hub of where you live, because it just makes the times of the flights easier, and it makes you build up loyalty points within one airline. It's not that I love United above all else, but I know they have good international partners. I know that they have a great hub out of Denver. especially flying east to the East Coast. It's a lot of good opportunities, more direct flights to California where I race also, whereas Delta was kind of shrinking and I had to go on all these side connecting flights and things like that. And with the competitive airlines, they're all going to be probably similar benefits when you build status in them. It's mainly just being able to get like an emergency exit row seat or something like that, more legroom, which is a huge advantage when you're traveling and you can't afford first class or business class or anything like that. But so I had some points left over on an old Delta SkyMiles account that I wanted to use up. Well, what I decided was that I was going to fly to Chicago or some other hub, Newark, New York City, or somewhere on the East Coast, to then do the puddle hop across the Atlantic Ocean to get to Europe a lot more affordably, because it could cost a ton just to get from the Rocky Mountains here to fly 3 hours east. That could chop into your whole travel expenditure and the plane ticket. So you're looking at flights from Denver to Copenhagen, and it was really expensive, but you look at different prices from the East Coast in the US and that price is cut in half already. But to get to the East Coast, I had to fly on a different airline. So I'm switching airlines, which is also very risky, because if you're late or you miss your flight because of a delay, the one airline doesn't care about the other airline reservation, and you have to go out of security and recheck your bags and all these things. So it's a little more tricky. It's definitely a risk, I'm not gonna lie there either, but I'm flying 4 different flights, 4 different planes. I think I go Chicago to London, London to Copenhagen on United, but the first flight, this first section of my journey is on Delta. But I leveraged points to get a free flight on Delta to get to Chicago. And then the ticket was a lot cheaper to go on United. But I leveraged those old credit card points because I didn't want them to go to waste. And the same thing with the new credit card points. I have, I don't think this has a number on it, Delta SkyMiles, or not Delta, United Mileage Plus card. US very popular. It instantly gets you free checked bags, things like that. It gives you, I think the bonus points, 60,000 bonus points in the first 3 months if you spend a certain amount. It wasn't a huge amount, I think it was several $1,000s, but we have a lot of business expenditures, like I said. So building up points with that, and the more status and points you get, the more they accumulate faster. It helps that way. Also, I had an old Venture One. These are Visas. Visas also advantageous compared to the American Express because you could usually, they're easier to use international. Even businesses within the US with American Express cards, you can't use them in a lot of business. They have high fees. Not all businesses accept American Express, so it's very limited, whereas the Visa felt like I had more leeway with. We also have another one that has numbers on it I'm not going to show, as Business Inc. card, Chase Business Inc. And there's an offer on that to accumulate 80,000 points, which I was able to get through business expenditures in the first quarter. And that 80,000 points, that goes a pretty long way. That's $1,150, $1,200 of tickets you could use on maybe a travel website like Travelocity, Priceline.com. And I was really inspired because you look at these other websites, Kayak, Orbitz, and they could show you the cheapest plane fare and different options, and you go with flexible days, flexible dates if you can, if you have that flexibility. Sometimes the more crappy the travel schedule is, the more the long layovers and the more transfers, that also will drop the price down a lot. But again, with these initial offers on the points, 80,000 points could go a really long way to getting you a free ticket that's international. That being said, a lot of these credit cards also have yearly annual membership fees. I believe some of them were about $95, which when you consider the initial travel benefits of the first year or two, that's actually a pretty good deal, I think, still. So I'm willing to pay that $95 for a $1,200 plane ticket type of benefit. But again, you have to be careful with your credit score, how many credit cards you're taking out, not missing a credit card payment and things like that, because you don't want to get into big debt. But I was really inspired by the business and entrepreneurship kind of side of things, and traveling. It's, again, a real privilege. I've been really fortunate to use my legs to make money, but also to have the opportunity to travel, which is a huge perk and huge benefit as a competitive mountain ultra trail runner getting to compete in these international races. And again, I do feel guilty about the jet setting and the carbon, making my carbon footprint a lot bigger with all the pollution exhaust that goes into air travel, especially international air travel. It's definitely a big downside of all this, but yeah, I really can't thank you guys enough, and the support and sponsors and the races and people that have believed in me, my parents that have allowed me to be able to do this. Again, my parents do not give me money though. I'm an older millennial here. I've been accused of that. I've been accused of buying subscribers on social media. I haven't done that either, truth be told. So that's just kind of my experience. Again, I was inspired by I interviewed Jay Walker, who founded Priceline.com. He's a Cornell grad. When I was in college, I did a lot of work study. I mainly worked in a gym part-time as being a student athlete to make money, but I also had this cool job where I got to film some lacrosse games and other sports games for the website, but I got to also film these business presentations, and seeing Jay Walker, miking him up and getting him on camera talking about Priceline.com was a real turning point in my career in taking a lot of business electives, classes, entrepreneurship, but also getting interested in marketing my senior year in college, even though I didn't major in those, was really something that I apply to today in my career, and something I'm really thankful to have that kind of opportunity and experience. But again, couldn't do any of this in the running journey without your support. I really, really appreciate it. Hope your running's going well. Again, feel free to comment with travel tips and things like that, accumulating points, leveraging. It's all about leverage, I think, recognizing opportunities in these programs, reading the fine print, being very careful with what you're doing, but being able to see ways that you could get more mileage for your dollar, so to speak, more mileage for your money, and try to just streamline costs and get the most out of the hard work that you're putting into it and the time, making the best use of your time. So thanks so much for your support. Be sure to subscribe on here for more running related videos. Check out our playlist for other videos, coaching website sagerunning.com. Thank you guys, hope your running's going well, and stay tuned for more.